Middlecoff.
Hey, behaves.
Good morning.
How you doing?
Well, it's 8:30 a.m. Pacific time on a Friday. It's not early, but it's morning.
I'd say it's quarantine early,
It is. Yeah, it's quarantine early. We thought we would welcome everybody to our YouTube channel. We thought we would try a little morning live, talk about some of the stuff that's been going on already this morning, but we'll find out if we're sharp enough to do these types of videos on a regular basis.
Well, I think we thrive in we're a mid-morning afternoon type show when we really hit our stride. Like I do respect the greenies of the world that have just been rocking and rolling at 6 in the morning, or Howard Stern at 6 in the morning for 25, 30 years. Like,
Yeah.
there's more than a talent to that, right? There's just an energy that you have to manufacture is probably the wrong word, but I don't know. Not every night of sleep is equivalent, right?
That's correct.
They're hit or miss.
Yep.
But I feel good
All right.
in this quarantine life.
Okay, well, let's we'll talk about some of the things going on today, at least that we've been paying attention to, probably the stuff that you guys have been reading in the morning as well. Don't forget, subscribe to the channel. We have set the goal, John, 1,000 subscriptions by April. And that was pick your face up a little bit there.
Pick my face up.
Yeah, I can't see the top of your head. That's better.
Trying to get my camera right.
Yeah, you're cutting off the top of your dome, but we'll even it up.
I see it.
There
Yep.
you go.
Okay, gotcha.
All right. Okay, John. First things first. At least today, Tom Brady signs officially. It got kind of weird yesterday. You even started theorizing, like, why isn't Brady signing? So, and you almost convinced me something weird was going on, but
Did it feel a little weird, or because my theory was, are we sure that this isn't the ultimate power play by Tom to get them to kind of relent,
capitulate,
and give in,
word you like.
capitulate, and give him some sort of deal, or just kind of come back to beg him?
Yeah.
Clearly, it was not. It was just getting out the details. Schefter writing about they can't tag, they can't trade. Obviously, they wouldn't tag because it's a 2-year deal and it'd be 45. But the trade, would they trade him? You can just, the one thing in sports, right? You can never say never.
I
Shit
think
gets
this,
weird
yep,
fast.
especially in this situation with this guy.
I think it's pretty telling though. 2 years, $50 million.
All guaranteed.
Say this for Tom, money has never really been his. Like Dak Prescott right now is consumed with getting $35 million.
As
Tom
he should.
Brady,
He's at a different.
But should he? I mean, he couldn't take 29.
Well, I mean, I
and be
shouldn't say
rocking and rolling?
consumed. Yeah, all right, a few million here, a few million there. But Brady has had, first of all, a very long career. He's very rich in many other ways. His wife is very rich. I'm just saying, if it's easy for anybody to do, it would be him.
My point is, though, Dak Prescott's been offered, according to multiple reports, like Goff and Wentz money, and he keeps saying no. It's like I'm at the point now, buddy. I can't, like, yeah, if Jerry was offering him low money, Brady would have signed that deal. And you can make so much money when you're with the right brand. Now, Tom, this isn't about the brand or any of that bullshit. This is just, I think, what he views as his best option, at least on the East Coast. I do think that factored in, right? Being on the East Coast.
That's what Darlington says, so I'll buy it.
Yeah.
I did notice, it first hit me when I saw, not hit me, I noticed it when Jeff Schwartz called attention to the fact that the Bucks press release said, or at least their like official story said, Brady and Bucks team up to win championships. Pretty bold.
Yeah, guy, they're not winning a champion. They're not going to win one, but if they're just, to me, it's we just want to make the playoffs with Tom and have a shot. That's really what the release should say. We want to make.
But that's not how Tom thinks, right? Like, you have this melding of historically a franchise that does not measure itself by championships and a player that only is measured by championships. Like,
that's not how Arians thinks either. He's trying to win a championship, right?
I mean, when Montana showed up in Kansas City, the Chiefs had not won the division in 22 years. Something like that. I think it was division.
See if I can get the camera right.
No, you're good.
It's not swear,
But
it's
that
not
was
swear.
like a team story. That wasn't that was like their team website story. So I would say one championship would be. What would you say is success right now as we sit today?
Making the playoffs.
Just one. It's like at one point. But if he plays 2 years there, making the playoffs both years,
Well, yeah, if they make the playoffs both years and maybe win a playoff game or two, that'd be more than.
that would be success. Yeah, for the Bucks, but for Brady making the playoffs and losing in a wild card game, I don't know if that would feel like success for him.
But
Probably
my
depends
point,
what the Pats do.
my point is big picture. He goes to the Bucks. They make the playoffs both years, like Montana with the Chiefs. He kind of validates it. Just like Belichick, he doesn't need to win another Super Bowl. If he can win a playoff game in the next couple of years with some random quarterback, he's in pretty good shape.
Yeah. One thing I just remembered. We put out a video yesterday about Sean Payton having coronavirus and the implications for the NFL. One thing that occurred to me after we put that video out, we talked about how the league is in jeopardy, just kind of the upcoming dates, just at least getting off on schedule, OTAs, all that stuff's getting pushed back. But John, I think the draft is in jeopardy now. The draft getting off on time. I know we've talked about like they can do this by video and all that, but what if half the head coaches in the league? I mean, what if 10 head coaches in the league end up with coronavirus? Can you do a full draft with everybody, every scout, the GM, everybody on a Zoom conference call?
Well, that to me, I was thinking about that the other day, is the issue with the draft. What is a big part of the draft? The draft room. What does the draft room usually have? A shitload of people. So it could get a little complicated, yes.
I'm not sure,
Do you need to test everyone before you let a draft room just be normal and business as usual? I think so. Because who's part of it? Scouts, GMs, owners, coaches, coming in and out. You can't just – would it be feasible to have your GM, your owner, like 7 or 8 people in the room, have everyone else kind of remotely – and just be like, that's asking a lot.
I think it is. You tell me, like when everyone's discussing a player, can you have the area scout on a Zoom conference projected video board, or does he need to be in the room so we're all talking, kind of really having a conversation here?
Depends on the room. I mean, the Belichick has 6 people in the room. Some teams have them all. You could say, yeah, push it back, but what I wonder is, are they going to have the telecommunications going with like once the spring practices are supposed to start, even the workouts? Because one of the big issues, I read this article on Farhan Zaidi, and he said the one thing that they've been trying to do the last week, and they kind of put an X-nay to it, was they left their facility out open for guys to work out, and they realized that it's just a dumb idea. They can't do it, so they closed it. And he basically said, we've given them some ideas to work at home, but we've kind of waved the white flag on that. Like it is what it is. These guys are not going to stay in shape. And I was thinking about football players, because my thought like 5 or 6 days ago was like, it's really going to test the discipline of the men. Who you got on your squad? But then you realize not a large percentage of the NFL do not have access, especially the weights they need to push around, right? Don't have sweet gyms in their home.
Yeah.
Every gym, it's like the number one place, right, with sweating and stuff, are all closed. They don't have anywhere to go. So you're going to be putting these guys – now, luckily, a lot of them have just 10 years of built-in just sweet muscle. But I would imagine a lot of them say, God, I'm losing it fast. I'm not able to – the amount they have to eat to maintain and their training regimens. The basketball players, it's probably a little bit easier if you're a basketball player to get access to it just to keep shooting and stuff, just solo. It is a little harder for football players for the lifting aspect. Same with baseball. How do you pitch? How do you do some of these things? It becomes a little more challenging, because part of this article was do they need to restart spring training if they ever get the opportunity? Kind of like football. Let's say it does get pushed off to training camp. Well, are guys ready for training camp, right? Mm-hmm. This isn't 1979, just work off all the beer drinking for the last 4 months. That's not how these guys operate anymore. They typically come in, 99% of them, pretty ready to roll, right? But would you need to give a month of just working back out, gaining your strength, and then start practicing?
Yeah, does that favor veteran teams or younger teams?
I think most teams have a pretty strong mix of guys, right?
Okay, veteran players or young players?
Well, think about this.
Guys
Think
who've
about
been established in terms of what their offseason regimen is, or guys who are fresh?
guy, every team brings in somewhere between 8 and 12 draft picks plus another.
I'm just yeah. That's why I
dozen
changed it. I amended it to just the players.
But I'm saying another dozen undrafted free agents. How are those guys working out right now? They have the least amount of access of just like knowing the TB12 type. They just don't. All they know is their college, and in fairness, or their agent. But all those gyms are getting shut down.
Yeah.
Like if I played at Alabama, might open it, but if I played at UCLA right now, and don't they have a corner who's supposed to go relatively high?
Mm-hmm.
The UCLA gym is 1,000,000% not open, correct? Or the guys at Cal, they don't have.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. Like, I think veteran guys who kind of just have a system might be at an advantage this year, if it ends up happening. It's also
that's my point, guy. Their system is getting close.
No, I understand. I just think those guys are probably more used to just having some ability to take care of themselves in the offseason.
Also, when
good time to have Tommy John surgery, by the way.
But if it's like me or you, and we own like the Ham gym, and some of our clients are like, Saquon calls you or me, he's like, "Hey, bro, could you open this up for me?" What am I gonna say? Yeah, I can't. I'm like, yeah, just bring 2 people.
Yeah, meet me at the high school track.
Yeah.
I put up the bags. We don't need to get too deep into it, but Tyler Beattie's having Tommy John. Chris Sale's having Tommy John. Good time for Tommy John. Go get it done. I would recommend it. The other story today, Darius Slay, angry at Matt Patricia. He's now an Eagle. And there was the story that there was an incident during Patricia's first season. Patricia yelled at him because, well, I guess he put up some clips of him getting beat in practice, but then he also put up a tweet or criticized Slay. Slay tweeted a photo of a wide receiver, and he said, "Get off his jock," basically. And was pretty aggressive about it. You know what he did, John? He went Mangini. Patricia.
Guy, if you're going to be in a management position, whether it's the management of people in an office job or whether it's a head coach, you can't just come out with fuck you, kiss my feet, do this, do that.
Mm-mm.
When I don't think you've done a goddamn thing. And he can say, "Oh, I've won championships for Belichick." Fuck, you did. That's how all these guys look at it. Like, you didn't do anything. It's like, what's his name, Dave Fizdale, just over the years reading some stories about, like, I won rings with Pat Riley and LeBron. Like, bro, calm down. I just think you have to be a human about it, earn people's respect, then you can say those things. Do you think over the years Belichick has dropped lines like that? Of course. Parcells, Sean Payton. You can be on guys when you got pelts on the wall. I don't even mean championships. I just mean this guy knows what he's talking about. Patricia, who looks terrible, I mean god-awful, who his resume in New England, yeah, he's Belichick's guy, but their defenses weren't good for a long period of time. They got dramatically better when he left. 2, 3, it's like the history, you do get lumped in with the Belichick assistants. Is this guy just trying to be Belichick?
Right.
And that's what I think a lot of guys feel, where it's just this guy's just trying to be Bill Belichick. And isn't that kind of what Bill O'Brien, sometimes people write, like, God, he is obsessed with being Bill Belichick.
Yeah. You know, it occurred to me listening to you talk there that what impresses an owner in an interview is not necessarily the same thing that impresses a player in a meeting. If you're a head coach that's won championships, then okay, you walk in. If you're a coordinator on one side of the ball, maybe like Kyle Shanahan. But I don't think Kyle walked into the room, at least with players, and had all the 49ers players looking at him, understanding exactly how good he was, right? We've heard it since. Like, we interviewed George Kittle on the podcast, and he said in the last offseason, and he and McGlinchey said, yeah, this guy, he can call the plays before he tells us what's going to happen before it happens. That's something they learned by being with him. That's not, even though we had heard those stories from Atlanta, and even though I think his body of work was pretty impressive, the things that the 49ers players said about Kyle Shanahan last year before the season, before they made the run to the Super Bowl, were things that they learned about him since he arrived, right? Patricia comes in, yeah, he's Bill's defensive coordinator, but everybody has a strong belief that Bill handles his business defensively by and large. Bill is the genius there. So when you walk into an owner's meeting as a coordinator with a bunch of rings and you tell an owner, oh, man, here's my plan. This came right from Bill. Like, that impresses an owner. I'm going to do all the things Bill did. Here's my rings. That impresses an owner. But that doesn't impress a player necessarily. Or it might impress him for 5 minutes, but then he wants to know, who are you? Not what did you do with Bill Belichick? Because you don't – it's a kind of a catch-22. You're going to get opportunities because you were with Bill. You're going to get opportunities because you were with Nick Saban, right? All of Nick Saban's guys get opportunities. But you also – the downside of that, or the challenge in that, is you then have to prove that you are good independent of that other person. And I think players are probably going to be skeptical about that, particularly if you come at them like this. And like you said, there is truth to it. Like, the rep of all the other guys that have come before him in his position, McDaniels, Mangini, Weiss. Cornell, I don't think has that rep. Bob.
No.
Bill O'Brien.
I'd say Mangini and Patricia seem very similar. Everyone's like, God, they are so smart. You know who doesn't give a shit how smart someone is? The guy working for that person that doesn't think he's that smart. So, like, you can tell me all day long, this guy is so intelligent.
Yeah.
And then I work for him and I go, yeah, I think this guy's kind of a clown.
Right.
And there is one thing to live it. Like, everyone's like, Kyle's really smart. And by the end of year one, every player to a man is like, this guy is a genius. I also think when you force things on people, it usually forces people the other way. I would say more now than ever. I think in 1981, Parcells walks in, double middle fingers, ready to, rattle some cages. Jimmy Johnson when he showed up for Dallas. It was easier then. Tougher might be the wrong word, though. I do think people in like the 80s were tougher just because the world was a little harder. I just think they were used to getting screamed at and yelled at and just kind of belittled. That's just the way the world was, society was. I don't think it's like that as much, but I do think if you earn a guy's respect, any fucking man worth their salt, if they think this is the highest level guy and he's pushing me, they'll be able to handle it. I think a lot of these guys just look at Patricia and go, I don't think he's that good of a coach.
That's the other thing, John, is like, if you're Patricia, do you make a miscalculation thinking because Bill yelled at Tom and Tom took it, that you can just treat other players the way that Tom got treated?
Well, what would you say, Darius Slay? I mean, I have to look at their roster, but yeah, I mean, he's probably their second best player behind Stafford. Their second, one of their highest paid players. I guess Trey Flowers is, but Slay's a much more accomplished player than Trey Flowers. And you just go, wait, this guy is trying to yell at me because I'm one of the best players to, like, set the tone, but I think I'm a better player than he is a coach. Right. It doesn't work that way. You and I have been around clowns. And when a clown tries to flex his muscle, it makes that guy look like a clown times 100. You're like, am I living in bizarre? Is this Bizarro world? Is that where I'm at? And I would imagine there are moments with guys like Patricia where, because at the end of the day, in defense of Bill O'Brien, he can go, listen, I might be an asshole, I might be a dick. We're making the fucking playoffs every year. We're stacking up division championships, right? So to me, people shit on Bill O'Brien, even though, like, Michael Irvin's story was somewhat, refuted by the guy that was part of the story. At least, like, bro, just
maybe
calm
a
down
little sensationalized,
a little bit. Yeah. So O'Brien at least produces, for as crazy as he is and as insane as some of the things that happen in the Texans. I'm pretty sure they've made the playoffs for the last 5 years. And how many home playoff games do they have, right? I'm just closing my eyes. That Saturday afternoon game is a home Texan playoff game every year. So say what you want about him. He is playing the first game.
They're on ESPN a lot.
Like a Patricia guy is finishing dead last in the division every year.
Somebody said, look at former Lion Garrett Hudson's recent tweets on Patricia. That's what Brian said in the comments. Clinton.
You know what's funny about, like, in basketball, even on bad teams, you're like, oh, I've heard of that guy. In football, when you get like a guy from the Lions or the Jags, you'd be like, look at what the right guard for the Jags said about Marone. And you'd be like, John Williamson, he was a Pro Bowler 2 years ago. You'd be like, who? In football, there can be like random players that actually might not even be bad, be like 7-year starters in the league, and you don't even know they exist. Because really, if there's not a Lions game on Monday night, and their one Thursday night game, you might not be super locked in. The majority of their squad that is not fantasy related and not like famous college players that are just like the undrafted free agent that made the team, you're just not going to know.
Well, linemen don't get mentioned. Offense unless they commit a penalty. Defense unless they commit a penalty or get a sack. That's it.
Yeah. And there
So
are a
it
lot
starts
of defensive
there.
linemen that just don't get sacks, right?
That's right. Garrett Hudson, and then it's just like, the team blogs who have the PFF numbers. And that's not a shot, but that's generally where you hear who talks about Ronald Blair, the coaches and the people that really follow the team all the time. Outside of that, you don't hear a lot of it.
Your number one thing is, and you're right, offensive linemen are not fun to draft because on draft night in the first round, it doesn't do anything for anyone. Now, that doesn't mean they're not the right guy to draft. Now, I would say occasionally, every 6 or 7 years, there's like a historic offensive lineman, right? There's like Orlando Pace is coming out. Tony Baselli's coming out. Anthony Munoz is coming out. Tyron Smith is coming out. Like a guy that's going to go top 2 or 3. And you're like, okay, we got one of the best players of the last decade potentially. And you feel like, okay, I can do it. But when you take like an offensive tackle, I like the guy and he's a solid player, but McGlinchey's draft pick wasn't the sexiest draft pick going.
It's a good pick, though. Here's Garrett Hudson's tweets. Matt Patricia is literally the worst person I've ever encountered in my entire football career. I was excited when the Lions cut me. It was that bad. He cussed out Kerryon, K-E-R-Y-O-N?
Yeah, Kerryon Johnson.
In front of the whole team because he didn't know what year Ford Field was constructed.
Well, what's that? Isn't that a classic Belichick thing, asking all the questions?
Let me give more detail on this. It was funny as hell, and Kerryon didn't seem affected by it. Some guys don't mind his personality and the way of doing things. Myself and a lot of other guys would have liked it different, but it's his team, his rules. All right.
But see, to me, that is I have a hard time with just completely copying the blueprint. There are basic things that work, like, the way to game plan, the way to implement strategies, the way to the practice field, the way to practice, things like that. That is just copying something Belichick did. That's a classic thing. Like, what year was Barry Sanders drafted? Well, you're asking some guys on your team. It's 2020. There's going to be a guy drafted in 2000 that never saw Barry Sanders play. So, he's the most famous guy, but what are you gaining out of that?
Yeah, just keeping everybody on edge. Keep them on edge with the other. What was it? Was it the Belichick video? Where he's like, all right, situation. He kept throwing guys in situations. Keep him on edge with that.
And what were they talking about, guy? An onside kick.
Yeah.
But I got no problem Bill Belichick asking, who are the three starting linebackers for the 2003 Patriot team? Just things like in the recent last 20 years that are part of their culture. Those guys are around. I don't know. It works for Bill. It just doesn't work for that fat fuck. It just doesn't.
Haha, Clinton Dix. How about this tweet from Eric Edholm? He signed with the Cowboys. Haha, Clinton Dix joining his 4th team since October 29th, 2018. Replacing Jeff Heath, who went to the Las Vegas Raiders. PFF had Haha, Clinton Dix as their 19th rated safety last year. But McCarthy knows him, right? McCarthy
I saw the
guy.
Cowboys have made 3 signings, maybe 4.
All Packers?
Amari, him, one other guy, and they were all past 11 o'clock at night.
Yeah, Ari Temkin, that was a very good tweet. He's like, I watched some of Ari's video, and clearly, his kids are asleep, right? He's, doing his YouTube. It's like, what is, was it you or was it him that tweeted, clearly, night is when Jerry Jones does his best work, Nocturnal Jerry?
It's just, can you just sign a guy? In fairness to that tweet, I could be like, oh, media guy, it is a little weird.
We got all day. We're all home all day long, begging just to get to sleep and try to get to day 9.
Is he doing that on person because he's trying to own the night? Or
I don't. You think?
No, I don't.
Jordan Schultz, Todd Gurley is going to sign with the Falcons per source, 1-year deal for the 25-year-old running back. We did a video we did a video yesterday. Go watch it about running backs and running back age. And here's the funny thing about this, because Pro Football PFT commenter tweeted a photo of like searching the age of Todd Gurley, right? And he said, "There's just simply no way." Todd was born August 3rd, 1994, 25 years old. And as we talked about on our last one of our last videos, that makes him old in terms of running backs. I know this is like not breaking news to everybody that follows the sport, but of the top 12 rushers in the NFL last year, Todd Gurley's older than 11 of them. Derrick Henry's actually a few months older than him, and he was number 1. But you think about yourself at 25, like people talking to you at 25, like, man, you had a good run. You imagine?
What if he has a good year for Atlanta?
He scored
the Rams look
it's
bad.
possible.
He kept him. He scored 14 touchdowns last year.
Yeah, but he's not. I mean, he's on his second team. His contract's over. It's just a crazy time.
One thing I did think is a little bit for sentimental reasons. He is in Atlanta, Georgia. But I don't know if the NFL, who really cares about stuff like that.
Yeah, I don't think you. The only, remember when it was like, are the Jags going to draft Tim Tebow, local kid? I was like, oh my God, you guys really going to do something like this? They didn't.
But they almost did. Remember?
Yeah, but they didn't. But that would have been awful.
Yeah, I think they took Blaine Gabbert.
That would have been a bad one. Which in the end, I mean, who knows how real it was. You watched the Suns last night?
Yeah, I stumbled upon NBA TV's just been playing a lot of sweet games.
Yeah.
And it was game 3 of the first round, 94 Suns Warriors. On this Warrior team, Mullen, rookie Chris Webber, Latrell Sprewell off the scrap heap. The Suns had Barkley in the peak of his powers, just off the MVP season. KJ looking like, I don't even, like Mike Conley mixed with a little Russell Westbrook because he's super fucking fast. Dan Marley is a baller. Danny Ainge coming off the bench. Oliver Miller still kind of skinny, really talented. And it was just a really, really, Don Nelson, really high-level game. And Charles scored 56. He had 27 in the first quarter. He was 11 for 11. He's basically Zion with a butter jump shot. I think, and I get it, he even admits he fucks around a little bit and pokes the bear. He, to me now, at this point in time, with two takes. Charles, criminally underrated at this point. He would eviscerate the NBA right now. He'd easily, in the peak of his powers, be a top 5 player. I don't even think it'd be close. He would be unstoppable. 2, I think often people say this, like, basketball, so much better now. Bullshit. There might be more talented individuals. The Suns would win easily 60 games. The math, the threes. Yeah, they have fucking Dan Marley and Danny Ainge. Those guys would figure out how to shoot threes. They would be unstoppable. The pace they play at, how talented they are, how talented the teams were. They have been, one thing with player empowerment, which has been cute for social media and ruined the television ratings, because you turn on random basketball games, a lot of the teams don't play together that long. So the basketball isn't that good. And one thing that made the Warriors special was, it was fun to watch them play. The Spurs, when they were humming in the earlier part of the decade, they were just on the same page. These teams, that Suns team, had just played together for a little while. All those teams like the Utah Jazz, the Houston Rockets, the Bulls teams, the Knicks, they just had so much chemistry. It was like, why were the Patriots so good these last 7 or 8 years? Because the majority of their core had been together for a long period of time. And you just watch how in sync they are, running the break. They're not even looking at each other. It's like bang, bang, boom, dunk. And one thing that bothers me with the younger NBA fan on Twitter, and that's where they thrive, is the NBA is so popular. Well, guys, you talk about it all the time. No one's watching. And then I try to watch. I go, listen, you can say I'm a fucking 90s baby, and I have a nostalgic element to me for that part of the league. But then when I rewatch a game, I go, yeah, I watch a lot of NBA still. One of the rare 35-year-olds that consumes a lot of NBA games. The teams back then were better, for the most part. They were just better. They were better teams. Maybe not better overall players, Like now, maybe the second guy on a great team has a better player than KJ, but those teams were just like I think the 93 and 94 Phoenix Suns would win 60 games in this league with their eyes closed.
Yeah. So, first
Or
of
the
all,
Bull
players have
or the
not.
Knicks.
Players were pretty strong then. Like I think it's not football where there are some guys now that are just outliers even now. Like Giannis is an outlier now. He'd be an outlier then. Kevin Durant would be an outlier then. He's an outlier now in terms of his size and his physical skill. But
You're listing all-time players, though, right? I mean, you're listing.
yeah,
like
but
guys
my
that are gonna be
point is when
all-time
people
greats.
say the guys in football, the centers at a certain point in time couldn't hang with the centers today, but that's
'Cause
not the centers in the mid 90s.
Well,
That's the
guy,
centers
'cause-
in the 60s, right? The same
well,
applies to all sports.
but I'd even go. You could go to 80s, where like in the early 80s, a center might have been 260 pounds. You couldn't do that now. Where I'm watching this, like Oliver Miller, or even like
So, yeah,
Chris Webber, the skill of those guys, the skill of the bigs. We always say, like, you run into Jerry West, who played in the 60s and 70s. He's still as tall as, like, fucking Klay Thompson.
this is my point, though, that these teams would not be physically overwhelmed by the teams that are playing today. A.
They'd be bigger.
B. Well, but to me, it's just their individual players would not be physically overwhelmed by strength. B. They're tougher. So the teams you're talking about were my favorite. I was a Suns fan in the early 90s. I had a Charles Barkley poster, this exact Charles Barkley poster on my wall. Dan Marley was my favorite player. I collected Dan Marley autographed cards. We lived in Phoenix at the time. So these Suns were my team, man. I loved them. And they were tough as hell. And I've said it a million times, and you just said it. I think free agency is great for players. It's not great for the sport to a point. Free agency is fun in the offseason, provided all your best players aren't on their third or fourth teams. In a sport where the players' careers where the individual stars are the ones that matter. Like the football gets away with it because football stars are their quarterbacks, and quarterbacks don't change teams. That's why it works in large part for football.
The Suns team's a good example. They had added players, right? Charles Barkley.
Well, but your star players have to stay on their teams.
Yeah.
And so those teams were my favorite teams, and they were the best team. That series, I think KJ missed the shot late in Game 6. That would have just given them a shot, and they lost to the Bulls in 6. But that's one of and like the 02-03 Kings teams, and then the Warriors teams that really won 73 games. Not the team that didn't win a championship probably would be up there for my favorite NBA teams. It's what made the Warriors so rare, makes them so rare.
Do you agree, though, that if you just ask, like, because I still think if you ask the random football fan, Charles is probably one of the best guys in sports history that never won a ring. But I think his credibility when it comes to being a player, because people kind of view him as crazy on TV. Like when you say Dan Marino to a 25-year-old football fan, they go, God, I've always heard that guy was great, right? I think when you go Charles, like, oh, that's a guy always talking shit. I think because the way he acts, he doesn't get the same respect. Like, hey, guys, he was fucking basically Dan Marino. Maybe not that. I mean, he might not be a top 10 player, but in the peak of his powers, like top 20 NBA player ever, unstoppable.
Yeah, but But to me, that's not because the youth of today is uninformed. It's because what they know of Charles is what they see of Charles. Like, I think that's normal, right? He's so famous as not a basketball player.
Would any general manager in NBA history, including Bob Myers, take Charles Barkley or take Draymond Green over for Charles Barkley?
Would any general manager take? No.
Would they even have to think more than 2 seconds?
No, but Draymond's a championship player too. Like
I know.
They get compared because they yell at each other, but the fact is they're in the same group. Like they're not. To me, it's not Draymond versus Charles. Like they're in the same bucket, and you're like, I wish there were more of these types of guys, right?
Well, yeah. Well, I'd say this: like Draymond is a championship level role player, where Charles is, I mean, an alpha. Like Draymond's just
but Draymond's not an alpha 1A option on your team, but he is an alpha like championship level everything else.
Well, yeah, like I'm trying to think of the proper. They didn't win a championship, so saying like John Starks or something like would be unfair. Trying to think who that guy was on some of the Kobe Shaq teams, like a Rick Fox. He's better than that. but he was not Kobe and Shaq, or he's not Stephen Clay. You know, that's where it gets weird. That's where Charles like, bro, you ain't the lead singer. Well, I was always the lead singer, winning MVPs and dropping 50.
Yeah. Yeah. But again, this is where I would say to Chuck is like, hey man, this guy is on your side of the line. He's not on the other side of the line.
See, that's where I think
of coattail player. Like
I'd counter and go, yeah, he's on that side of the line. And a big part of it is because of his teammates. Where it never mattered about Charles' teammates; he'd carry them to the fucking close to the promise,
but I mean, every great team needs a bunch of great players. This guy is just, I mean, he's one of the all-time competitors in the NBA.
I feel like this is a first take conversation.
Do you think we'll do a big song anytime soon?
No.
Imagine.
I think the song, again, I'm not trying to be Debbie Downer, but I think the song is kind of stupid.
I will say this specifically to the one that Tony Reali and those guys did. They did Linkin Park.
Yeah.
If he plays the piano at the beginning of theirs, Tony Reali plays the beginning of the song on piano. Like, that's art. That's like real music. So I give him credit on that one.
Agreed.
But Ham's not going to be doing one of those anytime soon.
No, I don't have that in me.
Got one more for you, just because Brian in the mentions just mentioned this, so I went and grabbed it. Middlecoff. Rap Sheet tweets: the Patriots never made an offer. I'll throw up the tweet right now. This is what Rap Sheet tweeted. In the end, the market for free agent Tom Brady was this: the Bucs and Chargers made offers. The Patriots waiting to see if he wanted to return. He said goodbye instead. The Raiders and Niners briefly considering but never making an offer. The Titans going all in on Tannehill.
Makes sense.
To me, like, the question on the Raiders and Niners was probably a different one for the two of them. For one, did the Raiders choose Carr and Mariota over Brady, or did they receive word he's not, don't blow your spot up because he's not taking your offer?
Come on now.
Whereas the Niners were probably more, it was their decision.
Yeah.
How about the Patriots waiting to see if he wanted to return, and he said goodbye instead?
We've said it all week. Belichick, the offer that Tom, whether it was like written on a piece of paper, Tom knew where they were, and it was an offer that they knew that he would say no to. Belichick wanted him to go. Like, can someone just tweet that? Belichick wanted him to go. This isn't that fucking complicated. Belichick was over Tom. Now, you could argue Tom was over him too, but I think we 100% know Bill is okay with this. If not, Bill wanted this. Where Tom wanted this in the sense where he felt disrespected. Bill wasn't disrespected. Bill just did this in the classiest way possible in what he does. He lets guys go when they get really old. And he held on. This will be the longest he's ever held on, right? He'll never hold on anywhere close to this. It takes Tom Brady for Belichick to go this far. And I bet the last couple of years he's like, I'm pretty uncomfortable doing this.
Yeah. Yeah. I said it before. I think
how many conversations do you think happened last year on a Monday or Tuesday? They still went 12-4, so a lot of wins. Where Bill just walks in when Josh is like kind of breaking down the previous game on a Monday morning, and Bill goes, does he still got it? I mean, is this? I don't think. Are we watching the same things here? And just they had conversations that are just a little uncomfortable.
Yeah, I mean, was Bill asking that question last year, or did he already know the answer? He might have been asking that question 3 years ago. Like, I think what Bill
conversations with Josh, knowing how tight Josh is with Tom.
I don't know, but I think whether he's verbalizing it or not, the conversation's more like we as a team are not good enough to make up for this, whatever this is, right? Our defense is not good enough to carry us. Our offense is not good enough. The years that their defenses have historically been good. I think I saw somebody tweet that over Brady's career, the Patriots defense on average allowed 18 points per game, just the whole window.
God.
Yeah, so it's good. I mean, the idea that, like, he didn't have help, right? But I think Bill might have been looking like our first-round pick's been banged up, and we're not good enough to make up for this. And it's just most years your quarterback has to be better than everybody else because that guy makes the most money. That guy's the most tied to wins and losses. I think it was more that. Like, we just as a group are not. We're not good enough to make up for the deficiencies or
And it
the
doesn't make
regression.
sense to give a guy $25 to $30 million, take up a huge percentage of the cap, where he no longer can just kind of put everyone on his back, right?
Yeah, well, exactly.
Because if Tom was 33 right now, would Tom still be on the Patriots?
I mean, he was 33 10 years ago, and he was on the Patriots.
Well, what I'm just saying, if he was in this situation where their team was kind of like going through a transitional
If he was
period
this,
on offense,
if he just wasn't as great as Tom Brady is, but he was this
and they
player,
didn't really have any other options,
Yeah.
I think he would be on the team. And he'd
Yeah.
won 3 or 4 Super Bowls, maybe not 6, but still like viewed as one of the best quarterbacks in the league, coming off a quote unquote down season. Yeah,
I'll tell you what I'm gonna do. What are you gonna do today? You got any plans?
not a goddamn thing.
I'm gonna get in on some Billions. I know that. Season 2 right now.
Welcome to 2014.
I know.
A little behind.
I know. Maybe a pod.
Let's do a podcast right now. People
All
keep asking, like, is YouTube and the podcast the same thing? Like, no, but who knows? I don't know.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that. We don't know what's going to happen here on YouTube. We're doing a bunch of different stuff. Go check out other videos. This might be the only morning show we ever do. We might do 5. I don't know. We're
my take is YouTube probably more of a lunch mid-afternoon thing, but I don't know. Like, I don't usually go to YouTube before like 10 or 11.
Yeah, I mean, just looking at the streaming numbers, the later we've done them, the more productive they've been. But keep telling people, everybody, and subscribe.
We're not afraid to take swings.
There's no playbook, John. Quarantine days. What did you ask me before this started? Middlecoff actually said to me, "Is this a 3-day weekend?" I know it was a joke, but it was a good joke.
Yeah, but then you realize, like, if people are like hanging on to their ass, it's time to be joking.
Well, I think there's room.
Hard balance.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think I'm glad you brought this up. I think there's room for everything. Like this. This is stupid. Of course, there's more important things. Somebody somewhere is like on day 3 wondering where their next meal is going to come from. Somebody doesn't have a lot of money, day 5 wondering, do I have coronavirus or not? Like, of course this is stupid compared to real things.
When do you think the last time is you went 8 days without watching some sort of fashion a live event? Even if it was just for 5 or 10 minutes.
I mean, I remember being in Hawaii watching stuff, watching golf or watching baseball. On vacation, like unplugged.
Yeah, it's impossible to unplug from sports, because even if you're on vacation, you're going to go out to eat and maybe sit at a bar and the game's going to be on.
Well, I went to Israel a few years ago, watched the NBA Finals.
And you start looking up, you're like, God, this game's kind of good.
Yeah, I don't know if it's happened.
Guys, sports guys do sports. It's just what we do. When's the last time you didn't, even let's say you haven't been able to watch something for a couple days, you just kind of hit the ESPN app to check a couple scores of whatever league or division, or just like, oh, so-and-so's in the lead, or damn, Dale Earnhardt Jr. won Daytona, even if you didn't watch a lap.
I've gotten a bunch of messages from people on this that are like, man, you're depressing me. It's like, yeah, good. Not everything is here to like, let's make everybody. You have to feel the lows to enjoy the highs. If this is the most depressing thing going on in your life, it's not for any of us really, but yeah.
Well,
feel low.
It does suck. It would be March Madness games.
I know. Well, there are a lot of people financially it affects, but I'm just saying, like, we don't have to, spend all our time watching old basketball games to make ourselves feel better that basketball season's not here.
By July, when we're sending out a link like food drive to us personally.
Yeah, and when that says day 138. And send me. I'm running out of index cards. Tomorrow, 6 is going to become 9.
Well, I need to stop looking at my TV. And this guy is impressive, but I don't want, like, when we stop really kind of hearing on a daily basis from Fauci, then I think we're in a pretty good shape. Because right now, Fauci is basically live sports. It's just like, what did he say today? What's his take?
Yeah.
He's playing a big role in society.
You're saying every speech should have a halftime show?
A Fauci?
With like a clock, and then it's like, and then Fauci goes to the locker room, and it's like, what adjustments is he going to make for the second half? That New York Times reporter really got under his skin.
I think in times like these, we got to maybe not do that.
All right.
Okay, see you.